This is the TJ Hoisington Podcast. Unleash your greatness within.
Almost everybody who goes into a gym and stays for years and years does jack shit. They look the same. They get no results. And they somehow think that just by beating their head against the wall year after year, all of a sudden one day they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not going to happen. He says, I don't know how it works, but I know they don't know.
So what advice do you have for those people that are constantly for years and years going to the gym and looking the same? What would be your advice to them?
Take everything you've learned and just emotionally throw it in the trash.
Do you eat a lot of vegetables or no?
None.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I put that in the book too, but no fruit and vegetables. No fiber. Fiber is a joke. We never need it.
Wait. So you're telling me you will not get malnutrition by only eating protein? I was raised to think that if all you did was eat protein, you're going to have malnutrition.
Well, your father's generation was raised to think that leeches were the best thing to reduce a fever. But that was wrong.
Hey there, and welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. Today, I have a new success interview for you. It was my privilege to interview Dr. John Jaquish.
You already know. My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. GreatnessWithin.com. TJ Hoisington. GreatnessWithin.com.
Okay, this interview was amazing. When you think about health, you think about fitness, you think about nutrition, I tell you what, he shot holes in some of the beliefs that I had. And he shot holes into some of the beliefs that 99% of the, if not more, 99% of the people out there have related to health and fitness and so forth. And he argues that we have it all wrong. And you know what? I asked him some pointed questions in some areas, and you know what? He has research to back it up. You see, he is the author of this book, and the title caught my attention, which is Weightlifting is a Waste of Time, and So is Cardio. What? What do you mean? Yeah. You see, he's the founder and chairman of Jaquish Biomedical. He works with NASA. In fact, they just came out with a new study 2 weeks ago from NASA where they teamed up and did some research together around some of his concepts and research and so forth. And you know what else? Tom Brady uses his X3 program and his X3 products. You know what? Tom Brady's done some videos on it and so forth. Now, Tom is not endorsing his product or anything. He's not promoting it or sponsoring it. But you know what? He's put some videos out where he's talked about using it. So, maybe Dr. John can't say it, but I'm going to say it. What an amazing interview as I asked him pointed questions and shared a little bit about my story and stories of other people and what we could do differently. And we were real and raw. And you know what? I felt like John didn't hold anything back. He speaks his mind and he has research to back it up. So give it a listen and listen all the way through to the end because, wow, we get into some rich stuff in this interview. Now, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, hey, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love to have you a part of my family here. And make sure you click that notification bell so that you'll be the first to hear when I have a new motivational message or a success interview like this. And if you're listening to me because you went on to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio, hey, listen, I'd love for you to subscribe to those channels as well. I'd love to have you a part of my family. Okay, without any further ado, let's jump right into this explosive interview.
John, welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast.
Hey, TJ, thanks for having me.
You bet. I got to tell you, I got a copy of your book here, and the title obviously caught my attention.
That's what it was meant to do.
Well, and it did, right? I love the red, by the way. And the physique is amazing, which I want you to get into your personal story because your physique didn't start out that way. And I think that'll be useful to the listeners. Weightlifting is a waste of time. So is cardio. And when my staff brought that to my attention, I thought, you know what? This will be a good interview. I think it'll be useful for people. I think what you've done as I've gone through your book is insightful. There's a lot of information in here that really gives evidence to the points that you make. It's amazing. So let's just get into it, John. Give us a little bit.
All right. Well, that's my favorite subject. You're not going to need to twist my arm.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's do it. Tell us a little bit of your backstory and let's go from there. How about that?
I got into life sciences because my mother was diagnosed with osteoporosis and she didn't want to take the medications, and I read the side effects. And so I developed a medical device to treat her bone loss and made her bones as powerful as that of a 30-year-old woman. And she was in her 70s at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's now out there in franchise clinics called OsteoStrong. There's 150 clinics in 8 different countries. So it's a big company now.
Oh, well, that's great. I didn't realize that. All right.
Yeah, it was my first invention. And then it was the data from that which made me realize that, I mean, I'm a little hyperbolic in that title, weightlifting is a waste of time. And my 2 inventions don't solve all human problems. Because I think a lot of people just assume I have that attitude because I'm an inventor. No, I mean, if you have diverticulitis, like no matter what way you exercise, it's because you're eating wrong.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So that enabled me to get to my next invention, which is X3. And the reason I call it X3 is there is a study that shows that people gained strength and, of course, then muscular size at threefold greater than the control group, which was lifting regular weights, just by varying the resistance in accordance to biomechanical capacity, or so they thought. Mm-hmm. Now, my data actually got to maximum biomechanical capacities where I had that I was the only one that had that data because it was out of one of my studies. So it was in a clinical trial in London, at the University of East London, in the hospital I was down to the Stratford Village Surgery in London. So, like when I was doing it, it just became obvious to me, like, wow, people are so much more powerful in impact-ready positions.
Oh, I get that. And you make that point in the book, right?
I make it 100 times in the book.
Yeah,
I really want to nail that in somebody's head. Like you can't, it is so incorrect to be lifting the same weight in all positions. Like, if you had to, carry another person, let's say out of a burning building, I'm creating a necessity, because why would you just pick up a random person?
Right.
Say, like, you wouldn't like touch your knees to the ground with every step so you could get a full range to be asinine.
Right.
Yet that's how we exercise. It doesn't make any sense. We're using the same weight through the entire range of motion. We would never do that.
Yeah.
And so what if, now fatigue is great, blood flow is great, blood flow in one direction is optimal.
Okay.
And not allowing a return to the heart. I could get into that. That might take another hour.
Okay.
That's a process called hypoxia. But ultimately, what we want is a weight that changes in accordance with our output capacity. And then by exercising in that manner, we can go to a far deeper level of exhaustion, thereby triggering much more growth. In that one study, it was 3 times the growth, but that's not the truth. The whole X3 thing, is it really 3 times the growth? People ask me that every day. And I said, no, it's not. It's more like 10 times the growth, or 20 times, or 50 times. Infinite. Because most of your friends, and I can say this to anybody, it's not just you, but most of your friends who exercise on a regular basis, they have seen no changes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, right.
So is it really 3 times greater than what people get on average? Well, what people get on average is 0. And I also make the point in the book, people were very furious when they saw the title of my book, and they really defended the fitness industry. The fitness as a human endeavor is probably the most failed human endeavor.
You did make that point. I read that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like 1 in 6 males in the United States have taken or are currently taking anabolic steroids.
Right.
Do 1 in 6 look fit? Absolutely not.
I see what you're saying, because I can just remember
Is it 1 in 60? How about 1 in 60,000
really?
actually look pretty good? Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, well.
How many people walking down the street would you be able to identify immediately as like just made of muscle, chiseled, lean? I mean, you've probably seen 5 people like that in your entire life.
Yeah, I can think of one right now. I can think of, right.
Right, and he's probably famous.
Player. Yeah, right.
Right. There's a couple NFL guys.
Yeah.
Usually not the linemen. Like the receivers and
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, the linemen have to be as heavy as possible, so they've kind of cut themselves out of that contest. But yeah.
But I see what you're saying, because in the times that I used
an industry that has just failed, would you invest with an investment company that lost 99.9% of its investment?
No, you wouldn't.
Initial capital, right?
So let's get into that in just a second. But I will say that I've noticed when I've gone to the gym, when I used to go to the gym, because I do a lot at home and I run a lot and so forth. But when I would go and I would notice over the years the same people showing up, but not seeing any major changes with it. I mean, I would see the same people, and there would not be.
The skinny guy's still skinny, the fat guy's still fat.
It's totally true. So with that said, let's go back to the beginning and tell me, because you write in the book your personal story. And like I said in the opening, the physique you have here, right, is not what you started off with in life. And so you wrote in the book, I was scrawny as a kid and I hated it. And then you gave some stories in it. Go back to when you were a kid, because you were not, the physique that you have today is not what you naturally grew up with, if you will. Is that accurate?
No.
Yeah.
No, I even have pictures from college where I was playing Division I rugby.
Okay.
And, I figured if I got into like a strong guy sport, I would somehow magically become strong. Stupid teenager logic. No, I didn't belong there. Like I was skinny. I was, now fortunately I had more like a wide receiver type position. I was an outside center. So I did all right. But
yeah, you said I was 6 feet tall and extremely lean at 140 pounds at the time.
Yeah. That was my my entrance into university.
And so you started to go, as soon as you got your driver's license, you started to go to the gym. You used that driver's license to get to the gym.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah, so we're talking now younger, but I was 140 in high school, and then I was 140 starting college too.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I got up to 160, but it was just fat I put on. I was maybe a little tiny bit stronger, so tiny bit of muscle, hardly anything. Yeah, so I mean, I wanted to put on weight so I could be a better rugby player.
Okay.
If you're 140 pounds and you hit somebody, you don't knock them over.
That's right.
You're 160, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. So what got you excited about getting in, besides helping your mom and so forth? What got you excited about going down this path of passion in your life? I mean, what was it? What was the...
Well, my mom really launched me in this direction, because before that, even though I liked science, I was doing relationship management software sales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would design a piece of software that would help a certain company with very specific tailored problems that they have in sharing data, sharing files, versioning. Think of it as like Dropbox before Dropbox kind of thing.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Dropbox like 15 years before Dropbox.
Yeah.
So, because Dropbox is pretty new. So what I was working on, what I was doing, it was cool. I liked it. Helped a lot of people, but it wasn't like the first thing I thought of when I woke up in the morning.
I got you. No, that speaks true, because a lot of the guests that are on the show or listeners to the show, right, we talk about unleashing that greatness within, and we talk about finding that inner passion, and don't go where the path may lead, go there's no path, and leave a trail, that old proverb goes. And so I think it's awesome that you found this niche in your life, and you've kind of, you've created a big business with it. You've made it your focus. You're seems like you're in the center of the fitness industry in terms of some of your thoughts and practices and processes.
Funny, I don't see myself as part of the fitness industry at all.
Okay, help me understand that.
Yeah. I'm a medical device inventor, and so I've been in that industry, and which is why everything I write is not my opinion.
Yeah,
it's backed up.
I know
it's back, right. And it's like, if you try and look up all the references in this book, you will be disappointed because there's 250 plus references and studies that I reference, and this is why this is, and here's the evidence of that. So it was written by professors at universities that I don't know.
Right.
So you can't say I'm making something up when I'm referencing another piece of research.
Exactly.
And nobody's been able to find something that I misquoted because I don't, because that's my job.
Wow.
Right.
So are you getting a lot of feedback in a negative way? Is that what you're saying?
Of course. Fitness industry is full of idiots. It's full of every guy who has all kinds of personality disorders, inadequacy, like, I'm 5'1", but I'm going to be all big and tough and walk with my arms out so I can show everybody how it's, it's just like psychological disorders sign up here. So yeah, there's a lot of, and that's not the whole fitness industry, but that's a good piece of it. So yeah, I think it's there's the most hate and jealousy, very jealousy driven. In fact, that's really all it is.
A lot of envy and jealousy, you would say?
Yeah, like when you're in good shape, they hate you because they're not.
Oh.
So they imagine that you cheated. You use steroids. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, if you ever look at a guy who has used steroids and admits it, and then look at me, there's a big difference. This is not a steroid user's body. This is like maybe an NFL body, but their NFL guys are drug tested like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't get away with anything.
Right.
So, right. So, nor would they, because there's kind of an argument that you screw up your blood pressure and then you're not such a great athlete when you use that. Like the only sport where performance enhancing drugs, that's a broad term, but like most of the testosterone based stuff, if you have anything beyond a natural level, you're getting some other disadvantages in your sport.
Right.
So yeah, they don't care.
You say here in the book, before you get into the X3 prototype, you talk about how you were 190 pounds, 20% body fat.
Which is fat.
That's fat.
Yeah.
By the end of the first year of your prototype, of your X3 prototype, you were 205 pounds, but 11% body fat. So the body fat went down.
Yeah.
By the end of year 2, you were 220 pounds and only 9% body fat.
Right.
Unbelievable. And so did that include, help the audience understand, because they're probably driving in their car or what have you. And so what was the shift? Help us understand X3 and what was the shift that helped change your body?
Yeah, just first, it was just the understanding the weightlifting, putting the same weight on all positions is just unintelligent. Shouldn't be done.
Okay, question for you real quick. Question for you.
Yeah.
Dumbbells or barbells? You say don't be using dumbbells. I'm maybe misquoting you. Don't be using dumbbells. You use barbells. Is that accurate?
Right. So when it comes to extremities, the human body is good at recruiting more muscle when you use both arms to lift something heavy. Because in reality, if you were going to lift something heavy, would you just use one hand?
No, you wouldn't naturally.
No, you would never do that.
Right.
If you had two heavy things, you'd probably grab one and then grab the other one.
Yeah, so you'd be balanced, right?
You wouldn't try and carry them both.
Right.
But when it comes to legs, the way people naturally train legs is wrong also, or in standard. Like squatting on two legs makes sense if you're a kangaroo because they run on two legs at once. We run on one. at a time. So when I train legs, I do split squats.
Yeah.
So all my weight on one leg. The other is I'm on my back toe just for balance. And then driving with one leg. And also keep in mind, how well can you do if driving all of your body's resources to one quadricep and one glute over two quadriceps and two glutes? Do you think your body can do more with twice the resources in the same given period of time? Of course it can. So yeah, I mean, you train on one leg, but you use both arms.
Got it. That's a good distinction. I would have never thought about that, right? Because in my garage, I have a little fitness area and I have the dumbbells, right? I have the Life Fitness or whatever it is, dumbbells. And I'm thinking, I need to rethink of some of this, right? So it's just something to think about that by reading your book, I became aware of. Let me say here, what I love about when I got into some of the X3 in action was this. You said, as fellow frequent business travelers know all too well, it can be hard to stay on track nutritionally while on the road. And then that led me to get into elastic bands. And then you had some research in there. You said the effects of variable resistance on the maximum strength and power were tested using Division I football players. Here, volunteers from Robert Morris University were divided into three groups, one training with elastic bands, another with weighted chains, and the last using traditional bench press. Each participant did a speed bench press and 1 repetition maximum test pre and post experiment. After 7 weeks, the group's training with elastic bands and weighted chains, the athletes exercising with variable resistance showed greater improvements than the ones working out on conventional weightlifting equipment.
That's right. Yeah, there's 16 studies like that. You read from just one.
Got it.
Yeah. There's even one that says the greater the ratio of variance, like some of those studies, you have X at the bottom and then you have, 1.2X at the top.
Got it.
Well, when we do it, it's more like X at the bottom and 5X at the top.
Oh, okay. With your bands, your elastic bands and so forth. So
they're not really elastic bands. Elastic bands are junk. Ours are layered latex, very powerful.
Okay.
So like when I do a chest press, I'm holding 550 pounds at the top.
Wow.
Right. So like the band, thing you get at like Walmart.
It's totally different than what you have. Okay.
Right. I mean, those things, they're meant to look like exercise, but you're not really doing anything. You might be holding at maximum when the band is stretched. You might be holding 15 pounds.
Okay. So
So
I travel a lot for my business. So if I'm traveling, it makes sense to me because I do get out of a rhythm when I'm traveling. I always have the choice to go out and run, but if I want to do some weightlifting, if you will, type stuff, it makes sense that I could carry 2 or 3 of the X3. What do you call them? Elastic? What did you call them?
I mean, they're bands, but we made more powerful bands than have ever been seen. And there have been a lot of copycats since. So there are other powerful bands now, but they're very expensive.
Okay.
So we made these bands. If you try and use this type of banding to just throw around your back and do a push-up, you'll probably break one or both wrists.
Oh.
So I don't like the product being referred to as bands. It's sort of like, is a tire a car? Are they the same?
Right.
They're not the same.
No. Yeah.
Right. A tire goes on a car, whereas bands are part of X3, but without the rest of X3, you have jack shit.
Okay. So tell me, I get you. Yeah. So tell me, give us the overview of X3 then. What does it entail?
So it's a way to put extremely heavy loads on the body, but safely.
Yes.
So people can lift with 4 or 5 times what they normally lift with high repetitions.
Okay.
And a very low injury risk.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say you're training heavier than you've ever trained before, but it's super safe, well, people are worried about the safe part. They're not afraid of training heavy. Heavy is relative. If it's heavy where you can handle it, well, then it's not so heavy. It just sounds heavy. You know, when I say 550-pound bench press, they're like, well, show me a 500-pound bench press in the gym. Well, but that's not what I'm doing. It's 550 here. When I get to here, it's 300. That's the middle. So I'm showing the extended position, almost extended, 120-degree angle here. And then, you know, when I'm in the middle of the movement, it's 300 pounds. And when I'm at the bottom of the movement, it's 100 pounds.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, geez.
Right. You exhaust the muscle in accordance with its output capacity. Anyone that's done a push-up knows that when your arms are almost extended, the push-up's easy. When your nose is right against the ground, the push-up is hard.
Correct.
Right. That's the difference. We have a very different capacity in those positions. And when you train accordingly, muscle will grow quickly.
Okay. What's your concept or your response to the old phrase, no pain, no gain?
Yeah, it's so stupid. I haven't had exercise soreness since I turned 40, and I've put on now 60 pounds of muscle.
Wait. So you're saying really?
Yeah, I'm close to 240 pounds right now.
And you're lean, and you
veins showing abs.
And you haven't had to kill yourself to get there, is what you're saying?
The workouts are hard as hell.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, I won't exaggerate. I won't ever tell anybody this is easy. I mean, it's like anything. But I mean, anybody who's built any sort of physique, I promise you their path was not easy. Like, incredible efforts. You have to truly go to absolute fatigue to get the results.
And I think that's a life skill, right? I mean, I think about the early days of my business, and I think about what people don't see was the sweat and the tears and the worry and the I'm failing after fail after fail until my first book came out and everything took off and everybody sees what they see today.
That's more like the grind.
Yeah.
If your exercise that you're being asked to do is about a minute long, and you only do one set, by the way, never more than one. Like, I really feel that, like, people going into this, I thought people were of a certain intelligence level and of a certain laziness level.
Yeah.
It turns out people are far more unintelligent than I thought. Or just unwilling to read, like just absolute unwillingness to learn anything. I mean, we live in a time where a virus is making decisions for us, or politicians are making decisions based on a virus, right? So for good or bad, I'm not going to debate that, but it is just, I am in awe of how many people let this run their lives, yet they don't bother to learn anything about it. Like, completely, like, uninterested in learning about metabolic health, maybe why this disease looks so dangerous, yet 99.8% of people survive it.
Yeah. No, those are valid points. And so we sort of go along with some of the talking points and we don't dig deeper than it to find out, hey, what are the real facts? And then make a decision on our own. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what I loved about your book. As I read it, I go, wow, there's some there's some things I've learned. And let me just put it this way. I've learned in the past where I thought were truths. Yeah. And you basically turned it around.
Especially in fitness. And, you know, as an industry, like, where do you find the most fitness information? YouTube and Instagram, videos and pictures. Why? Because the audience probably is not so good at reading. Like, I mean, that's the level of intelligence we're dealing with.
Well, let me just say on that point,
unable to read.
I agree with reading. I got to tell you, you don't know this.
Yeah,
you don't know this about me, but I didn't read my first book till I was a junior in high school because I didn't believe I could read. But when I listened to that tape by Jim Rohn, who said all leaders are readers, and I wanted to be a leader one day, I thought I better work at this, and I did the grind. And I figured out, and now I read all the time. But then I remember in the year 2000, I saw a little blurb come up on the news that said, In 1950, the average teenager's vocabulary was 25,000 words. In the year 2000, it had gone down to 15,000 words. And you got to wonder, what's the depth of knowledge that is really out there? And I think that there is something said to read. I challenge everybody to become readers.
Yeah, the younger generation has a willful ignorance. Like they know they don't want to learn anything.
Interesting.
And sometimes you can break that barrier by making the information a little more cool.
Yeah, I can see that.
Presenting it in video. Like I think I've probably got as much attention with people buying the book as I have with people listening to a video, and all of a sudden going, that actually makes incredible sense.
No.
Like if you're a logical person and you listen to me present the logic of X3, like, you know, half the haters will still be like, the guy's a scam artist. He's lying about everything. Like, okay, well, I guess I faked like 50 accounts also on Facebook who are talking about how they gained 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months or less. And oh, by the way, I would have had to go back in time because some of these accounts are like 20 years old. Like, okay, like if you want to be that ignorant, you know, you can go do it somewhere else, I guess. I'm not going to do it on my Facebook page.
Yeah, you have some pretty powerful research in here. Let me say here, I write down, okay, we talked about the strongest people in the world use barbells, but not dumbbells. We talked about that. Okay.
Oh, coincidentally, I backed it up with research also. Like, again,
no, there's total research. Yeah.
I want the listeners your show to know there is 0% my opinion in that book. Like, there's a study right there that you're probably looking right at the page where it says you use single extremity upper body work, you deactivate 20% of the potential musculature. So you just shot yourself in the foot. Like, you're not going to get any stimulus because your body doesn't want to fire the muscle if you've only got one extremity committed for safety reasons. It doesn't want you to drop something heavy on your face.
Yeah.
The self-preservation, it's called neural inhibition. Your central nervous system will shut muscles down when you're doing something that could put you in injury risk. When you're sprinting and all of a sudden you step in like a pothole or something and you become a little unstable, let's assume you don't roll your ankle.
Yeah.
You slow down big time because the nervous system is like, we're unstable, we're shutting muscles off because we don't want to hit the ground at high speed.
These natural survival mechanisms that we have.
Yeah.
Okay. You say it's a common misconception that cardio is an effective way to lose body fat. Okay, talk to me, brother, because I think I lean on that a little bit.
So for this research has been out there for 40 years.
Okay.
Yet nobody in the fitness industry was ever smart enough to explain it well, or probably even attempt to explain it. I found very little evidence of an attempt. Problem with cardiovascular exercise is it's trying to make you lighter to go long distances. Well, let's imagine that the central nervous system is like an engineering team, and it's rebuilding you all the time to be optimized for your environment. That's the only way to communicate with the central nervous system. You put it in a harsh environment, and it will adjust things to make you able to deal with that harsh environment.
Right.
But if you're a loser and you sit on the couch all day long, it's going to start taking structures apart, musculature, bone, tendons, and ligaments, because it doesn't need it. It's trying to make you more efficient at being a lazy do-nothing person. So you got to look at the environment you're putting yourself in. And so when you go great distances with a limited amount of fuel, and we all have a limited amount of fuel, right? You don't have unlimited fuel.
That's right.
So your body is going to do what the engineering team would do when building an economy car. It's going to give you a small engine. So you're going to lose muscle quickly. So cardio destroys musculature. Now, we also have the research that shows that cardiovascular exercise and strength training provide the same cardiac health, because that's what we're concerned with, health, right? Running marathons and health are two very different subjects.
True. I remember Bernie Siegels, who wrote the book Love, Medicine, and Miracles, pointed that out. He says, I sit across from my hospital desk. Again, maybe across from me is a 300-pound person overweight who is dying roughly at the same, this is what he said, and I'm generally speaking, at the same rate as the person that runs 5 marathons a year.
That's right.
And I always thought, wow, really? And here's Bernie Siegel, one of the well-known surgeons and so forth. And I thought, wow, I never thought about that.
I've actually met him. I've never read his book, but I've met him.
Have you? Really eccentric guy. But I thought, wow, when I listened to him speak one time, I was like, wow, this guy's deep. He's good. Well,
he's thinking about, the problem with healthcare is not really healthcare, it's disease care. Like medicine and science comes in way too late and someone's already dug themselves into a hole.
Yeah. We
need to get out in front of these things. We need to be the healthiest people we can be.
True.
Like, we're taxing income at record rates now, but we used to tax cigarettes to keep people from smoking. Now we're taxing income to keep people from working.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually what we're doing. And coincidentally, there are people who, won't drive for Uber anymore because they get more money just staying at home and not having an income. Was that helpful for the country? It's a super no. But anyway, what was the question?
I don't know. This is just rich. Hey, John, this is good. You're feeding me. You're making, okay. So let me just share with you, and you tell me what worked and what I did wrong. Okay. So
we were talking about cardio.
Yeah. Okay. So let me share this with you. So and I'll probably show some pictures when we do the post-production so that people can see the difference. Because in my earlier years, I was heavier weight, and I went to church one day, and 4 of my friends said, hey, we're all a little bit overweight. We're all, at that time, we're about, 39 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. And they said, why don't we start a little group where every month, well, first of all, we all need to get our weight down. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to weigh in together as a group at the first of every month. So, and if you weighed over, the one that weighed the heaviest, because the goal was to get under 200 pounds for each of us. Now, we realized years later that trying to get under a specific weight doesn't work for everyone's body, because some people in the group were taller than other people and bigger and so forth. So irregardless of that, our goal initially was to get under 200 pounds. If you did not get under 200 pounds and you were the heaviest person, you had to take everyone else out to dinner plus their spouses. So there was some pain associated with it. Well, listen, within 3 months, every one of us got below 200 pounds, and we kept that off for 5 years. And then we thought, you know what? Hey, we're doing good. We don't need to keep weighing in all the time. We probably developed some good habits. And then we stopped weighing in and checking in with each other. And guess what happened? We started to gain the weight back and so forth. But here was my strategy where I went from 235 pounds. And that's not lean muscle, by the way. So at the beginning, 235 pounds, I got all the way down to about 195 pounds. My wife said at that weight, I looked a little bit like that was maybe too much weight loss for me, in a sense, is what she said. And, but my strategy was this. So tell me if my strategy worked. And so think about nutrition and think about exercise. This is what I would do. I would eat about 1,100 calories a day. Mm-hmm. And I would run, and I run at a 10-minute mile pace. So we're talking snail pace. And by the way, part of that is just meditation for me. So I just get on this little thing and I usually go for about an hour. And then I eat. Now, to eat 1,100 calories a day means you're eating a lot of natural foods. But what I found was I made sure at night when I had at about 5 o'clock, my strongest meal was some salmon and some broccoli. I made sure I was heavy on the protein, and the carbs I would eat were never, because I couldn't stay within the 1,100 calories. They were never processed foods, right? It was broccoli, it was spinach, and so all throughout the day, I was eating apples and then vegetables. And then at night I would have that strong, and I tell you what, I lost 35 pounds and I kept it off for 5 years. So what would you say I messed?
A very inefficient approach that got you to your success.
Okay, yeah, help me understand.
And a lot of what you lost was muscle.
Okay.
Yeah, because cortisol goes up chronically when you're in a cardio training program. You know, each time you do it, it goes up for days and days. And if you're running every other day, which you kind of have to keep the endurance up.
That's right.
Yeah. Now you're eating at a caloric deficit, so that is associated with some fat loss. But your central nervous system, just from the perspective of exercise, is trying to turn you into a Prius. Tiny engine, which means loss of muscle, extra storage. So cortisol does two things. It gets rid of muscle and it preserves existing body fat.
Okay, got it.
Fat you lost, assuming you lost some, it wasn't all muscle, was the hardest fat you ever had to lose because your biochemistry was fighting you the entire time.
Okay, I get that. I get. So what should I have done?
It wants you to have a bunch of body fat because if you're going to go distances,
it needs that fuel. Yeah,
burn a couple hundred calories. Like you need to have that fuel there.
So what would you have coached me to do differently? I'm eating natural foods. I'm only eating 1,100 calories, but I felt alive. I was eating a lot of protein, lean protein.
I would have had you into a strength program, so you would have lost weight, but you would have looked athletic as opposed to emaciated. And you would feel better. You'd be happier. You'd be much more attractive. Like even women with good muscle mass look very feminine.
Yes.
Like I was dealing with somebody this morning on the X3 forum. It's like, well, I don't want to do deadlifts because I don't want to build my trapezius muscles up because then I'll look like a man. It's like the only people that look like men are men. You just don't have the genetics for that. Now, some women do take performance enhancing drugs, and do they look like men? Yeah.
Right.
They have some masculine qualities, but that's not natural. So just forget about it.
So you would advise me stop running, eat healthy, but stop running and do more resistance training. Is that fair?
I would have you use X3 because then you'd grow some serious muscle and you'd be at no risk of, or very little risk of injury.
You've got my curiosity up. Listen, because here's
if you stop doing cardio and you do X3 and you eat right, and you got to get 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein. And there is a much easier way to do that with bacterial fermentation.
Right.
You can be lean. Like I'm at a caloric deficit pretty much every day.
You are. Okay.
Yeah. And I only eat 1 meal a day.
You do. What time do you eat that meal?
Usually 5, 6 o'clock. So if it's up to me, it'd be 5 o'clock.
And you don't take, do you take any type of protein shake, drink, anything like that?
Yeah. So that's how I do it. And I do that right before, not right before, like an hour before my meal. So I can make sure it's like through my system. So I'll get 200 grams of value in protein through my system. And then I only have to worry about eating 50 grams, that's like an 8-ounce steak. That's nothing.
Do you eat a lot of vegetables or no?
None.
Really?
Yeah.
How about fruits?
How you think they are?
How about fruits? Wait, say that again.
No, I put that in the book too. But no fruit, no vegetables, no fiber. Fiber is a joke. We never needed it.
Wait. So you're telling me you will not get malnutrition by only eating protein? I was raised to think that if all you did was eat protein, you're going to have malnutrition.
Well, your father's generation was raised to think that leeches were the best thing to reduce a fever. But that was wrong. So vegetables, not so great. Yeah. So I haven't eaten vegetables or really carbohydrates beyond 80 grams in a sitting when I want to replenish muscle glycogen. There's a specific protocol and reason you do that. Right coinciding with a workout. But I haven't done that. I've been just eating, like a steak and then vegetables next to it.
In years.
Yeah, like 5 years. 4 years.
Well, so you'll take a shake, you'll have a shake, protein shake, and then you'll have a little 8-ounce steak or something, and that's good.
It doesn't even look like a shake. It's clear. It looks like pink lemonade.
What is it? What is it?
Bacterial fermentation. Yeah.
Is that something you offer? Your business offers?
Yeah, it's called Fortigen. Yeah, it's an adaptation of a cancer treatment they initially developed it to keep people from having muscle wasting problems during chemotherapy and radiation. And so I worked with some of the original creators to make it anabolic for muscle size growth as opposed to being anti-catabolic. Had to be a little stronger, quite a bit stronger for my needs. But yeah, so I never feel like full or bloated or anything, and I eat one meal a day.
Wow, you're shifting the belief systems here. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And you look great.
Yeah, I would like it. Like everybody would be better off if they got half their nutrition from this product, because really what you need is protein. Like, you are made of protein. You're protein and water. And your body needs to consume other proteins, dismantle them all, and put them back together to be assimilated with the human organism as opposed to an animal organism.
Wow.
So that process always happens.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. I wrote down here. Let me move over here. Okay. Talk about eliminating sugar. I would say historically that's my weakness. So give us the sugar lowdown.
Oh, let's see. I think this morning, like, the European Medical Congress said that no, they're not considering exercise here because there's a glycogen absorption element to the human organism that was not acknowledged in this study. Mm-hmm. But they were saying, like, you want to keep carbohydrates under 25 grams a day to reduce your chances of various types of cancer. Sugar is going to be like an unbelievable villain in the coming years. It's really our biggest problem and the cause of what we think the other problems are, but like heart disease, arterial inflammation. So now, like, high cholesterol is good for you now, right? Low density lipoprotein was, the devil, right? And now the higher your low density lipoprotein, the longer you live. So it's exactly the opposite that we were taught. So you can eat all the eggs you want, all the steak you want, have all the butter you want, doesn't matter.
Sounds like
live long.
So those you write about later in the book, you write about the Atkins diet, if you will, and ketosis and so forth. Are you suggesting that's closer to the way you live, as more of an Atkins type diet regimen?
No, because Atkins at the last minute, he added in all this fruits and vegetables crap. And he had no evidence showing it was good. He just wanted to fit in. So he just didn't have the balls to write it out correctly. Like, he had all the evidence that animal protein is like the ultimate food. Now, keep in mind, like, somebody could follow my program and still be a vegan. They could. I
was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they could just do the bacterial fermentation. So, I mean, I know vegans are, and I was like, all meat. Well, okay. Yeah, all meat of what solid food I ingest, but that's still way less than anybody else who's a meat eater. Like I might only eat 8 ounces of turkey or chicken or fish or steak in a day, which is a hell of a lot less than even somebody who goes to McDonald's. So, and I could replace even that protein with Fortigen as well. But I like the taste of real food.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm with you on that. So how many do you ever track how many calories you consume a day?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to follow the program. I do for documentation reasons, because a lot of people are looking to me for like, and I'm kind of worried. This is kind of a new program I'm describing, because for a while before Fortigen existed, I would eat 1 meal a day, 3 pounds of red meat. That's it.
Okay.
That was hard for a lot of people to choke down.
Yeah, I can see that. Right.
I mean, like that last half pound of steak, they were not loving it.
Yeah.
Even if you're like the best steakhouse in the
Dude,
world.
I did 20 years ago, I did the Atkins diet and I lost a lot of weight. And
Sure.
I remember, and I ate so much bacon that I won't eat bacon today, because I just burnt out my system of bacon. Right.
You know, like,
it was so much. So when my wife said,
you make yourself ill with something. I have trouble with a lot of sausages, even if they're high quality and there's no nitrates in them, because I don't know, like I was shopping with my father when I was like 5 or 6. And that was because my mom was back home in Belgium. She's from Belgium.
okay,
This is all important to the story, by the way.
no, this is good. I like this. So personal.
Like, all of a sudden I was like, I'm hungry. I'm like 5. Like
Yeah.
5 years
Yeah.
old. And my dad probably should have said, well, you're not going to eat until later in the day, so it's time to shut up. But instead, I don't know, we were going down the street in San Francisco and there was a hot dog cart.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Hey, have some hot dogs." So he bought me like these 2, New York style hot dogs. And I've never had a hot dog with like all the stuff on it.
Oh yeah. No, they loaded it.
Like my mom was in charge of me. My dad, not really.
Yeah.
So he was just completely like fish out of water.
Right.
So he makes me these hot dogs, puts this stuff on. I'm like, okay, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I eat them both because I'm so hungry. Then we go to the next store, and it was a nice store. I think we wanted to buy something for my mom. I puked. Like a boot came out of me. Like it was like the worst vomiting session one could ever imagine.
Uh-huh.
Like as a 5-year-old child, like more volume came out of me than I could even contain in my body. Like it just didn't agree with me to this day.
I'm with you.
Somebody's like, have a bratwurst. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I hear that, right? You were conditioned in a second back when you were 5 years old, and that's carrying through today.
How many people have had a bad experience with tequila? A lot.
Right.
And they're like, oh no, I'll never drink that again.
Right. Sure.
Right. And it's just because of one bad experience. I never had a bad experience with tequila. I can put tequila on the rocks and sip it.
Hey, one thing you and I have in common, I believe, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I used to work with Tony Robbins. You partnered with Tony Robbins. And so 20 years ago, I was traveling all over the country, giving presentations for him and so forth. And I remember one of the things that he would talk about in our early studies when I was with him is one way early on when he was 25 years old to help people overcome smoking, for example, he'd have them smoke a whole pack at once, sometimes 2 packs, and it would just flood their system. And from then forward, these people wouldn't want anything to do with a cigarette within an hour. Yeah, it's amazing. You can do that to your system, right? You can purposely do it if you want, but
you can almost break your body's tolerance, and you just feel so sick, and you're like, all right.
And then you're anchored, and then it's over, done. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you about low calorie diets. You kind of mentioned that you're on a.
Yeah. So I believe in benefits from fasting.
Yep. So do I. Yep.
It's well documented. And fasting, if you're going to compare calorie deficit versus fasting's superior.
Right.
No doubt. Like every study, like even some of the animal studies are great in this case because you can really force an animal to eat only one thing and only so many calories. You can't really force a human to do that. It's against human ethics boards. So if they want to go out in the middle of the night when they're not at the lab and eat 2 large pizzas, and then they just lie and say they did, I haven't eaten anything. People do that all the time.
They do. Okay.
That's why animal studies are superior in essence.
Because it's controlled. It's controlled.
Right, because you can fix all the variables.
Right.
Humans can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mice are given the exact same amount of calories, one set of mice throughout the day, the other set of mice only in one sitting.
Mm.
And of course they devour, they go right through it. So same calories, both sides. The mice who fasted got more muscular and lost body fat. The mice who had the same amount of calories but ate it throughout the day got fatter and weaker.
Mm. We published a book. We have a publishing company, Aylesbury Publishing, and we published a book from New Skin, a company, $1 billion company. And they have some research in there with 2 monkeys that lived together for 25 years. One is one monkey, I remember from the research that we did, this is going back 2011, but my memory serves me right. Of these 2 monkeys, one was overweight and bloated, and the other one was lean and thin, and the skin looked young and everything. And the one that was bloated and overweight was given as much food as that monkey wanted whenever they wanted it, so forth. The one that looked great, looked lean, and looked younger, and the skin, and when they tested the organs were functioning just right on target, right? Mm-hmm. Where, because they make the point in the book, it's called The Aging Myth. That's the title of the book. And they pointed out in the research that being on a calorie restricted diet, putting your cells on the verge of starvation, does more good than damage.
Yeah. Yeah, not chronically. Obviously, you die if you do it forever.
Fair. Yeah, no, totally. But just limiting the amount of food that we take in and so forth, and then taking in, like you said, more of the proteins, right? Because your body's built on proteins, is what I'm hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think, hey, listen, the fitness industry has you said a 99% failure rate.
Right. Now, there's some studies that back that up too. Like the leanest 1 percentile of people.
Yeah. Right.
10.9%, 11%. 11% is sad. That's not good at all. That's like barely, maybe you can see a top abdominal. You can't see any of the bottom ones because you got quite a bit of fat there. And that's for a male. So, the top 1% is still out of shape. Like, why are we listening to this industry? Like, they have failed. I would almost say maybe the smarter people are the ones who don't work out at all. I have a really intelligent friend. He's a financial analyst. He writes the algorithms for hedge funds.
Yep. Like,
brilliant dude. And so he doesn't work out at all. He's slim, like not overweight. He doesn't have a 6-pack or anything. And I've asked him, like, why don't you work out? Now, this was before I started X3, so I was working out in a futile manner. And he said, because it's futile. He says, all my friends work out. They look the same. They don't look any different. They don't look any different than me. They're slim, no big fat gut or anything, but also no 6-pack. He said, I just don't see it working. Like, he says, I write algorithms. I play the odds. That's what I do. I play the odds. That's my whole life. He was a statistician in naval encryption before he got his master's at Berkeley, and then went to work writing algorithms for hedge funds. He just understands statistics. And he says, there's no point. Like, almost everybody who goes into a gym and stays for years and years does jack shit. They look the same. They get no results. And they somehow think that just by beating their head against the wall year after year, all of a sudden one day they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not going to happen. He says, I don't know how it works, but I know they don't know.
So what advice do you have for those people that are constantly for years and years going to the gym and looking the same? What would be your advice to them?
Take everything you've learned and just emotionally throw it in the trash. learn something new, read this book. This will change your life. Yeah. Like that. You'll understand why you've never succeeded. Like it's crystal clear when you read that book.
Yeah, and every point that you bring up, and you said it earlier, every point you bring up, you have examples and you have research. You actually have studies, not your own studies, other studies from around the world that point to the efficacy of what you wrote about. And I was thinking you used in the book, maybe it's on the back, you used the word efficacy, and it made me think about the reason it has a big failure rate is because I don't recall where I wrote it down. There's not enough efficacy. You're not seeing the results from putting all that energy into something. And if you will change what you're doing, do it a little bit differently, get the book, figure out what you need to shift, and then start applying it. I mean, I'm just thinking about as much as I travel, taking some of the X3 bands or whatever that are appropriate for me. And
so you got to take the whole product, not just the bands, because they're worthless by themselves.
What does that mean? Help the audience that's listening to this understand.
They're so heavy that if you try and do an exercise, the reason band training has almost taken off like 20 times for years and years is because people realize there's a logic to putting a heavier load on a stronger range and a lighter load on a weaker range. The problem is if you don't have a good way to grab a hold of the bar or a way to protect your ankles from being twisted. It only takes 7 pounds of force to lateral force to break an ankle.
Okay.
But when I do a deadlift, guess how much force is running through my feet? 600 pounds. And if I'm stepping on that band instead of having a plate to have the band wrap underneath, I'll break my ankles.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
You don't like the bands by themselves are worth nothing.
So how do people get the full package? Where do they need to go? What website do you have? What's lead our audience into where they need to go to find out more besides the book? Why, by the way, I'm assuming they can go to anywhere bookstores or any, bookstores, the books are available.
Yeah. Go to Amazon.
Go to Amazon, get the book.
Yeah. It's cheapest on Amazon. And there's also an audio version, which I really feel like people are liking now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
People who commute especially.
Yeah, right.
Like they got an hour in their car. It's like, I'll listen to the book.
Exactly.
And there's a Kindle version. Well, I'm also finding that people don't love reading books on their phone.
I think I could see that. Right.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I buy textbooks from Kindle that have a lot of things that I might need to reference. Like I have a lot of physiology and neurology textbooks in my Kindle app.
Right.
But that's the only, because it's like I just look stuff up. Like I'm looking to talk about something and I'm like, there's an aspect of it I really want to get right. So I'd rather, quote it directly from a medical textbook.
Yes, right. Falsehood number 9, the anabolic window. The concept behind the anabolic window, you say, is that there's a period of time right after the workout where the body is more apt to absorb protein and turn it into muscle. Falsehood. You say a falsehood.
Yeah. You grow when you sleep. Like, doesn't matter when you get calories. I mean, you grow outside of sleep, yes. But the majority of it is when you just shut down for the night. Your body has time to go to work and build more cells and replace bad ones, metabolize.
Is that why you eat later? You do a dinner meal kind of a thing? Is that why?
Doesn't matter. My one meal could be breakfast. It doesn't make a difference at all.
Oh,
because those things, while your body has no ability to store protein, it does have an ability to keep it circulating until it's going to use it.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So what would be your thought beyond, I was thinking this as I was getting things done earlier today. And you basically answered it. I was going to ask you one meal a day or graze throughout the day, because those animals that graze throughout the day, quote unquote, are the leanest animals on the planet.
That is not true. But they say that. I understand why.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Not true. Yeah. I mean, like, first of all, lean animals, like a cheetah's lean. It eats one meal a week. Definitely not grazing.
Good point.
Like, yeah, any cat of prey, lean, and they
space out their meals. Yeah,
and they're powerful. Also, let's look at the brain capacity of predators versus prey. The animals that graze are as stupid as cockroaches. These are the deer that jump in front of my car.
Yeah, right.
Like literally will leap in front of my car. We have 30, what is it? I think there was like in the early 1900s, there was less than like 100,000 mule deer or white-tailed deer in the United States. And I think we have something like 100 million now because we killed all the predators.
Right, the wolves and so forth.
This is why people are being killed by deer all the time, because deer will just jump right in front of your car.
Yeah, and up here in Washington State, well, they come through our property all the time, and you have to be careful. They'll run across the street. We just saw 2 last night run right in front of our car. I mean, yeah, they're out there.
So what's in animals that have very little fat in their nutrition? They have very little cognitive ability also. So they're naturally gravitating towards plants. And I just put something out on Instagram. It's maybe my most recent post.
Okay.
Where I talked about the mental decline of vegans. Like they lose a lot of cognitive capacities and they become very depressed. And now, of course, they all want to argue with it. And of course, they're super angry while they argue with it. They're like, I'm not depressed. Okay. I mean, they just proved me right with their protest of, yeah, okay. But if they seem unhinged at times, they are. And it's because of their nutrition choices. Like the brain needs fat. The brain matter is most similar to fat tissue. It functions very differently, but its biochemical breakdowns are more like fatty tissue than anything else.
Wow, you got me thinking. I mean, you are busting myths all throughout this interview.
Well, from medical doctors, a lot of times exercise and nutrition, they don't see it as what they do. And they may have personal opinions, but they didn't really study that.
That's right.
Now they can apply their ability to read science, which is sometimes limited. Sometimes doctors are better at it. But if they sought to understand exercise and nutrition, like I do, they would come to the same conclusions. Any MD that I meet that is well-read in nutrition, like they're not going to be vegan. They're going to be mostly carnivorous. They're not going to do cardio. They're going to do strength training. So in fact, we have a huge connection with MDs for the whole company, the whole Jaquish Biomedical company, all the products. Physicians are big fans.
Well, that's good. So I just look at your story and I think here's a guy who was really lean and really wanted to gain some muscle when you were a kid because you knew the girls like the guys with the muscle, it seemed like, is kind of what you said in the book. And so
yeah, that's even proven as an adult. Like there's so many women that are like, oh, like I'm a really muscular guy. That's just gross. He's a narcissist. And then like the same girl that'll say that, like I'll get up to go to the restroom and she'll be meeting me, on when I'm coming out and she's kind of going in and she's like, give me your number.
Ooh, okay, right. It's noticeable. It's noticed, but
I think it's like virtue signaling. It's like when somebody's like, oh, this group of people, they're so wonderful and so smart and I love them so much. It's like, you never had a person like that at your house ever. Shut up.
That's hilarious.
It's the same kind of thing. It's like they say what they they say what they want people to hear so they can be perceived in some sort of better way.
Seems like there's a lot of that these days in a myriad of
Yeah,
different areas.
Well, but I realize virtue signaling has always existed.
Yeah.
It just wasn't as egregious as it is now.
Really egregious, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to show you're a racist by like talking about other groups of people like they walk on water, and you're like, why are you going over the top with this unless you really are a bigoted person? Like, you know, equal means equal. Equal doesn't mean you have to come to pieces about them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we don't, I know I'm with you. We don't need to divide. We don't need to divide based on skin color and so forth.
We should run for office. Like, really, everyone is focused on the differences between them and other people.
That's right.
We have a lot more similarities.
Yeah, 99% similarities.
Name the ethnic group of people. I'm pretty sure everybody wants clean water, clean air, good schools, fair police. You know, love your neighbor.
Yeah, love your neighbor is a huge one.
It's really weird. It's really weird. Like, you listen to CNN and it's like all races hate each other and are ready to murder each other at every moment. And you're like, wow, God, the world's a terrible place. And then you go walk down the street and everybody who looks like they're from, you know, National Geographic, the whole world is like, howdy. You know, like, I don't think they want to murder me.
I agree with you. In fact, if anyone's a follower of my podcast, you know I've mentioned multiple times how I've traveled the world, and it seems like everywhere I've ever gone, at all four corners of the world, I've only found nice people. I know there's not so nice people because I had it happen.
I've been everywhere in the world, and I've never met a group of people that was just like hard to deal with.
Never. I never have. Yeah.
No.
Dude,
No.
And if you'll just have a positive countenance and you have a smile on your face and you'll be curious to find out more about their lives and you're respectful to them, the natural thing is for them to want to be respectful to you. I can only think of one time in my life where I was holding the door for a woman. I'm going to put out a video soon about this, where I opened the door for a woman going into a store. And as she was about 6 paces behind me, I'm holding the door open because I thought, I'll be respectful. I was raised to be a gentleman. I don't know if that exists anymore, but I was raised to be a gentleman. So I opened the door. My family's in the car. They watched the whole thing because I just went in for a second. I hold the door. She's walking in, and all I said was, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And she said, "Don't talk to me." I was a little bit dumbfounded. I was like, is she being sarcastic or what? So anyway, she went through. So I thought, I'm not just going to let this go. I mean, I don't want to be treated like that. I hear I did something kind to you. I thought I was doing. So I said, were you being sarcastic when you said don't talk to you? And she goes, yeah, it's my prerogative, isn't it? And I went, wow. I knew at that point there was probably nothing I could say to bridge a relationship. And so I let it go. But you know what? That's the 1/10 of 1% versus the majority. And I wish the world could see that.
Yeah, the 1/10 of 1% has got the run of social media, though, because nobody wants them around because they suck as people. They can spend all their time on the internet judging people and being, what do they call them now? Karens.
Yeah, I've heard that. So let's delay. So as a message to everyone listening, let's delay our judgment. Let's look for the good. Let's be quick to forgive. Let's go to work to be productive.
Everybody has something great about them.
Absolutely, 100%.
You just bother not to find out what it is because you're busy. Well, that doesn't mean you should assume that they're bad people.
Agreed.
Just keep going.
Trust first, right? Look for the good first. Okay, listen, John, Dr. John, it was great to have you on the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. I tell you what, this is really enlightening to me to see maybe some beliefs that I had around fitness, around cardio, around how I'm eating and so forth. I'm going to take it into serious consideration going forward. So how can people get the X3 product? Is there a website that they can go to find out more about you?
Yes, it's x3bar.com. That's the product website. If they want to connect with me or find out more about me or, links to everything, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, just go to the website, drj.com, DOCTOR, and the letter J.com.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put that link up here so everyone can see it. And I hope they go search you out and find out other information that you have shared, because I'm sure there's a lot out there. So anyway.
Sure, the bone health stuff, the information is there. The superior, there's like three big sections. There's bone health, then there's superior exercise and superior nutrition. And my solution is really simple. I probably have the cheapest home gym product that's ever been out. And it's coincidentally more effective than having access to the Olympic Training Center. And then the superior nutrition is just bacterial fermentation. It's one supplement. Like, if you're going to deal with anybody in the fitness industry to get results, I'm the cheapest guy and will give you so much more effect than doing anything else.
Okay.
So I encourage people,
I'm going there. I'm going to get some of it. You're going to coach me through it, and we're going to rock and roll. And the next time you come on the show, I'm going to look better. I'm going to look leaner. I mean, I feel like I'm sharp, but how do I know I can't be sharper? Right.
Of course. I tell you what, don't say anything. Don't say anything at home. Let your wife like grab on your arm and be like, whoa, this is different. Like, this feels strong.
Yeah.
Because you're your own harshest critic. You could be making gains, and, if you have a bad haircut or something, you're like, I look terrible. I don't know this thing's working. Let her judge.
That's good.
Right.
Okay, man, it was great to have you on the show. I think you
Beautiful.
opened my eyes to some things, and I hope the listeners take it with an open mind to consider the ideas that you've put forward, and then get your book so that they can read the evidence and the research that backs up the things that you've said today. So,
right.
Hey, John, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
All right. See you, TJ.
Hey there. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, could you do me a favor? It would mean the world to me if you could write a simple review or give me a star rating. I would really, and I mean really, appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Now go out there and unleash your greatness within.
GreatnessWithin.com